am not a king, I am not a saint. I have problems in my head, my friends told me I've changed. And I used to be gold like the first man made. Now I'm buried in the earth.
Welcome to The Deep Dive.
Great to be diving in.
So today we're tackling the history behind the term targeted individuals. You shared some really fascinating material looking at how this whole concept has evolved.
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
Our mission really is to unpack this history, especially, within the context of what people call gang stalking, and see how it connects with, broader trends in society and technology.
We should probably mention, too, that the term does pop up elsewhere, like in law, international relations.
Right, good point. We'll touch on that briefly, but
Yeah.
our main focus is definitely its emergence within that specific gang stalking belief system.
Exactly. Because targeted individuals there means something quite different than, say, legally protected groups or people targeted by foreign states. For this deep dive, it's about that online subculture.
Okay, let's get into it then. The term targeted individuals, or TIS, as they're often called online,
Right.
it really seemed to take off in the early 2000s. And that coincided with the rise of online communities, didn't it?
Absolutely. It was a shift away from the classic stalker idea, one person.
This was different. Gang stalking, the name itself implies. Many people. Organized harassment.
And the internet was crucial. Online forums, later social media groups, they became these central hubs, places to share experiences.
There was that New York Times article, I think 2016. It estimated something like over 10,000 people active in these communities.
Yeah, believing they were part of this huge harassment conspiracy. And we started seeing some academic interest, too, attempts to classify these experiences.
This feeling, this sense of being targeted by a group, it's not entirely new, is it? If you look back historically.
Not at all. I mean, organized harassment, persecution based on religion, think of Buddhists in Imperial China or Jehovah's Witnesses under the Nazis. It has deep roots.
And political or social ideology, too. The Nazis targeting various groups, the LGBTQ+ community, facing harassment leading up to Stonewall.
Even labor movements, like the Homestead Strike back in 1892, there are historical echoes.
And you mentioned contemporary examples like transnational repression.
Right, where governments actually do target their own citizens abroad. It shows that organized, state-sponsored harassment isn't just, paranoia. It's a real phenomenon in certain contexts.
Which brings us to surveillance. That history seems really key here.
Definitely sets the stage.
We've gone from things like, lantern laws in the 1700s, slave patrols,
Early forms of control and watching.
to the 20th century with wiretapping, the FBI, the NSA growing.
And attempts to regulate it, like FISA, ECPA, trying to put some boundaries.
But then the digital age hits. Mass surveillance, targeted surveillance using our phones, the internet.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
And that whole progression, that backdrop, it feeds into the claims you hear within the targeted individuals community about electronic harassment, even mind control.
Things like electromagnetic radiation, V2K, or voice-to-skull tech, directed energy weapons, DWWs.
Exactly. It raises that question, doesn't it? How much does the reality of increasing surveillance shape these perceptions of being targeted in such extreme ways?
The line gets blurry.
It really can.
So gang stalking, as this specific concept, it really solidifies in the early 2000s. Online communities are ground zero.
Providing validation, shared narratives, a common language, beliefs about constant surveillance, advanced tech being used against them, that becomes common ground.
And there's often this rejection of mental health explanations, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes seeing a diagnosis is just another part of the harassment.
Which highlights this fundamental, clash in understanding. Psychology often looks towards delusional disorders, psychosis, potentially amplified by online echo chambers.
There are other views.
While some suggest maybe intense paranoia could stem from real trauma or extreme stress, and the need for community, for validation, that plays a huge role too. Sociology looks at it more as a socially constructed belief system, a psychotic cultural structure, as one paper put it, built through those shared online narratives.
It's complex. And unfortunately, we've seen intersections with violence, some really tragic cases.
The Washington Navy Yard shooting, Aaron Alexis in 2013, Myron May, Florida State University in 2014, Gavin Long in Baton Rouge, 2016.
And even recently, the 2024 Rochester Hills shooting, where reports mention the suspect's mother talking about government tracking beliefs.
These are rare, horrific events, but they bring the phenomenon into the public eye. along with media pieces like that Times article and people trying to find legal help.
Which is usually difficult, given the nature of the claim.
Very difficult. Law enforcement has protocols for stalking, harassment, sure, but cyber stalking involving potentially hundreds of unseen people, claims of invisible tech, it's a massive challenge.
Government policies tend to focus on individual stalkers, online bullies.
Although, interestingly, the FBI is focusing more on transnational repression now, which shows that, yes, organized state-level targeting is a recognized concern, even if it's distinct from the typical gang stalking claims.
The internet's role here feels pivotal,
Wow.
good and bad.
Absolutely transformative. It enabled the community, the information sharing, the identity. But yeah, the flip side is the echo chamber effect. Potential isolation from other viewpoints, maybe even radicalization in some cases.
And have the types of reported harassment changed over time?
It seems so. Maybe less focus on purely physical stalking acts and more claims involving electronic harassment, mind control.
Reflecting tech advances, maybe?
Yeah.
Or just the shared info online?
Probably a bit of both. The claims seem to get more specific too. And the whole gang stalking idea itself, unknown, numerous perpetrators, covert methods, it's a real departure from how we traditionally understood stalking.
So wrapping this up, what we're seeing is this intricate web, isn't it? Personal experience, the immense power of online community, very real anxieties about surveillance tech.
And these echoes of genuine historical persecution, whether religious, political, or state-sponsored.
The term targeted individuals, especially in that gang stalking world, it carries this heavy weight, this perception of systematic, inescapable harassment.
It really does.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with a thought, maybe for you listening.
Yeah.
Considering how fast technology is moving, how interconnected everything is, how might our understanding evolve? Both of these deeply personal experiences of persecution and the potential for real, organized forms of harassment that might be harder to see.
How do we navigate that line between perceived threats and actual, maybe hidden forms of control or harassment in the future?
Exactly. Definitely something to think about.
I am not a king, I am not a saint. I have problems in my head, my friends told me I've changed. And I used to be gold like the first man made. Now I'm buried in the earth till the robin come and wake me